2:30 on the dot. So we'll go ahead and get started. Glad to see that the chat is blowing up. We got people from all over the state. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's breakout session on student-centered local practices, addressing basic needs to support affordability. So my name is Javier Arguello. I am the Assistant Deputy Director here at CSAC, specifically over the Customer Relations Branch, and I'll be your moderator for today's breakout session. So before we get started, just wanted to cover some general housekeeping items for today. It's going to be an interactive breakout session kind of towards the end, so I'll kind of cover some of the housekeeping items. So during the Q&A section of our presentation, our presenters are actually going to lead a mural board activity. This is going to be something that you'll find towards the end of the presentation. Mural board, essentially what it is, it's an online tool. Think of it kind of as a digital whiteboard of sorts that'll allow us to all kind of collaborate when we get to that point, share ideas. It's totally free. We'll have a link to the mural board so that you can register. It's a quick registration for you to do. You'll also see it a couple times throughout the slides. You'll see a QR code that'll appear on either the bottom right or the bottom left of the PowerPoint. So if you don't get a chance to find the actual link to register, you can just snap a picture with your cell phone of the QR code and it'll take you directly there so that you can register. One thing to be mindful of though, when you register it, sometimes, and this happened to me when I was testing this out yesterday, there's going to be a 6-digit confirmation code. Just double check your spam box because in my case, that code actually was quarantined. So I didn't even get it for a couple of minutes. So just be mindful of that. Check your junk box there for that 6-digit confirmation code that will allow you to fully register for the mural board account. And we'll have that activity towards the end of the breakout session there. So. All right, so you'll notice at the bottom of the presentation also, you'll notice two different features that we have going on. We have a chat feature, which is already blown up, right? But there's also a Q&A feature as well, right? So if there's any specific questions that you have of our presenters, we just ask that you feel free to use that Q&A feature so that we can answer your questions and kind of get that dialogue going for today's presentation. So a little bit about the CSAC and who we are. So CSAC is essentially just an acronym for the California Student Aid Commission. So we are an agency that was founded in 1955. We're responsible for administering the state's financial aid programs here in the state of California. Annually, we provide a little over $3 billion in state-based financial aid to students here in California. These are students that are attending, public schools, private universities, colleges, vocational schools in California. So we hand out quite a bit of financial aid. We're actually a pretty small agency, about 150 to 175 total staff on a good day. So we definitely punch above our weight. But we hand out a lot of financial aid, right? And it's not all about financial aid. So today's breakout session is really going to incorporate that other side of the coin, right? So financial aid is part of the formula to eventually arrive at students successfully completing their degree. That other side of the coin is also making sure that students have their base. That's what we're going to be discussing today. So to just kind of set the stage for kind of the topics that we're going to be discussing, just want to throw out just a quick stat on a study that CSAC conducted a couple years ago back in 2023, the Food and Housing Survey. This survey, essentially what found is that about 53% of respondents were housing insecure. These are students in California. 53% of respondents were housing insecure, while about 66% of students that responded were food insecure, right? And so this is not only a growing trend here in California, but you're starting to hear more and more of this nationwide as well. So this is not just limited to California. So what we've done today is we've brought together an all-star lineup of folks who are state leaders, right? These are folks that are doing this sort of work on their respective campuses. We brought them all together here to kind of share this space with everyone to share best practices, right? So that when you leave our session here, that you're enabled, you're equipped with the tools and resources that you need to better serve your students. So without further ado, if we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. I'm going to go one more slide, please. And we'll introduce our three presenters for today. So first off, we have Justin Mendez. He's the Director of Basic Needs Programs and the CASA Grant at Long Beach City College. Justin is the first in his family to attend college, initially enrolling at Santa Monica College, then transferred to UCLA, where he received his bachelor's in Chicano arts, and then also continued at UCLA to receive his master's in education. So, as the director for basic needs programs and the CASA grant, he oversees efforts to support students experiencing food, housing, and transportation insecurities. He also served as field expert for the Council for the Advancement of Standards in Higher Education to establish national guidelines for basic needs programs and services. He also received the 2022 Viking Impact Award at Long Beach City College for his distinguished service on campus and the 2023 League for Innovation in Community Colleges Award for enhancing sense of belonging for students. Our next presenter is Danielle Munoz Chanel. She is the Director of Basic Needs at CSU Long Beach. Danielle is the Director of Basic Needs at CSU Long Beach. In her role, she oversees programs and initiatives that advance student affordability and well-being, including food security, housing, financial assistance, and emergency services. Some notable examples of her efforts there at CSU Long Beach include strengthening the CalFresh outreach, CalFresh Healthy Living and CalWorks programs, but also increasing the emergency housing inventory and implemented a rent subsidy model. Right. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, hopefully these are some initiatives that you can also, it'll spur some ideas for you to start at your campuses there. Danielle has been leading similar efforts even before coming to CSU Long Beach. She was actually the founder and director of the CARES and Basic Needs programs here at Sacramento State. Danielle's inspiration to advance equity through holistic approaches stems from her own experiences as a first-generation, low-income Chicana college graduate. And last but not least, we have our third presenter, Auri Gutierrez Zavala. She is a basic needs senior case manager at UC Davis. Auri was born in El Salvador and immigrated to the US at age 6. She's a first generation college graduate, earning her associate's degree in sociology and then liberal arts from American River College here in Sacramento, then pursuing a master's in counseling with specialization in marriage, family, and child counseling from Sacramento State. Audi has worked in health and human services, specifically in community health care and behavioral health services for over 20 years. So in her current role at UC Davis, she serves as a bilingual social work case manager at the Aggie Compass Basic Needs Center, where she provides emergency housing, mental health support, and transformative case management services for her students there. So as you can see, we literally do have an all-star lineup of folks who have been doing this work for quite a bit. Everyone here is super passionate about this topic here. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide and we'll get going with our presentation. So Justin, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the introduction, Javier. Big shout out to the team here and to CSAC for getting this webinar conference going. And thank you to everybody in attendance for sharing, who you are, where you're coming from. Like I mentioned earlier, it's great to see the various diverse positionalities that we're coming to the room with. So, although us presenters are all coming from different California colleges, I definitely feel that the information provided is, and what you'll see is that all of this work is going to be grounded in community, right? We know it takes a village to be successful, and definitely hope that some of the practices that we share are going to be beneficial, that y'all can put into implementation, no matter what agency, university, college you're representing. So as mentioned, my name is Justin Mendez. I am the director of our basic needs programs at LBCC. And our basic needs program does focus on food, housing, transportation, and clothing. My slides are mainly going to be focused on the food and housing resources. But very quickly, for transportation, we do provide free LA Metro Go passes for all students. And for clothing, we have a Viking closet, right? Which you will hear a little bit about. So let's jump into it to the next slide and get into some of the resources and efforts that we're sharing. Almost forgot about the most important slide, which is the framework, okay? And then again, both Danielle, Audi, myself, we all, and really, I think it's a shared ideology that basic needs should not only focus on basic needs, right? It must be holistic efforts. And I wanted to bring up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I know we all are familiar with this framework, with this theory. Abraham Maslow highlighted first, right? Really, this framework is why we have basic needs in higher education in a lot of sense, right? Um, However, I do feel that this ideology is limited in terms of providing student services on a college campus, right? This is a hierarchical form of thinking, which does not work for us, for our students, right? It does not take into account the identities and positionalities that our students are also coming to campus with. Okay, so we do know that yes, as humans, as we develop, we must have our basic needs met. If our college students want to be successful and they're supposed to be writing papers and listening to professors and discussing theories and calculus homework, and they are supposed to reach this self-actualization and that full potential, yes, we need their basic needs met. However, for us as student services practitioners, if we are not accounting for that self-esteem just as equally as important as having the basic needs, then we can have our full food pantries and basic needs centers with all the resources in the world. But if our students are not comfortable enough to walk through those doors and ask for help, if there's not a sense of belonging that they have in order to really let us know what their struggle is, then so many of them are not going to be able to access those resources, right? And so, and equally, we all work with students that might be experiencing housing insecurities, sleeping in their vehicle, and they're still getting on the dean's list, right? So even those students that don't have their basic needs met, they're still being successful students a lot of the times. So this hierarchical form of thinking, although it's pivotal in highlighting the importance of basic needs, I do bring in the indigenous medicine wheel for our framework at our program at LBCC, and I believe it is a more accurate depiction of that human experience for us from a day to day, right? And it highlights the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being. So if our students are, say it's a parenting student, and I got to get up in the morning sometimes, and I was a parenting student also, by the way, throughout my undergrad. And so you got to wake up in the morning, you got to get the kid ready. Sometimes, your kid is not the easiest to get ready. So maybe you're running a little bit late, right? You're rushing out the door. Boom. Okay. Get the kid, drop them off to school. Now I got to rush to class. Maybe I'm a couple minutes late. I go in a little bit flustered and I'm trying to, I'm listening, okay, doing my homework, but dang, I fed my kid, but all I ate for breakfast was some kid snacks too. That's not a full nutritious meal for me. So I'm not fully present, right? I'm like, dang, I'm hungry. Okay, finish one class, off to the next class, get through that class. Now I got to rush to work. Okay, do a full shift, eat snacks throughout the day. After work, go pick up my kid, get them home, get them prepared. And again, I'm not eating throughout the day as much as I should. And then my kid's not listening. I'm trying to do their homework. So now I'm getting upset, right? And I'm getting my emotions are starting to get off balance. And I'm like, come on, like do your homework, sit down, we gotta do this together. I'm like, and then later I'm like, man, okay, why did I do that? Why am I flipping out on my kid like that? Okay, I'm being aware of it. And then, okay, now it's time to do my homework. So I'm reading my book and I'm reading the same line over and over again. And I'm trying to read it and it takes me an hour on this one page. I'm like, oh, what am I even doing? Uh, this is not for me. Why am I even a student? Why am I putting myself through this work? Should I even be going to school or should I be going to work? Right. So now that's my spiritual well-being. That's my sense of purpose. Spiritual well-being is not just attached to religion, but this is your sense of purpose. And so now throughout this day, all of these factors, they're interlapped, they're connected. And this is what so many of our students are going through, right? Whether they're a student parent or not, we know that it's a very human and normal experience that we need to be aware. This is what our students are going through, right? And so while that bag of food is going to help them through that day or maybe through that week, we need to help connect our students with sustainable and holistic resources. And that's what we're all here for, right? And I know that this philosophy is shared amongst many of us. So now we're going to get into the actual resources and how we're addressing those holistic needs of our students. Next slide, please. So at LBCC, we do have 2 campuses, and so all of our resources, we do have 2 on-campus food pantries, and we do call them the Viking Vaults. We keep it in stock with produce as well as hygiene items, non-perishables and perishable goods. We do use our basic needs allotment to help fund. So we do have 2 vendors. We work with US Foods and our local LA Food Bank. They're our major providers. We also work with Food Finders, who helps bring, their food rescue program that brings donations to us, and also Grocery Outlet. They give us great deals um, in order to keep our food pantries stocked with all of the goods. And we do provide a market experience. So students come in, they check in, and they actually receive a basket. They get to go around, and there's signs, pretty much two per item, or like one. We have almond milk, for example, it'll be one. If we get chicken and eggs, it's just one, but usually two per item. And then the students bring their basket to checkout, and we have student assistants that bag it for them. So it's very much grocery market experience. And again, we're trying to break down that stigma that of a food pantry, right? That it's not organized or clean, or there's not quality of food. And so every donation we get, we make sure to go through it, we sort through it, make sure that we are still putting good quality food on our shelves. We also have grab and grub stations. So this is basically where we provide different offices and centers throughout campus with different snacks. And so we have a social justice intercultural center, the math success center, reading and writing center, the library, and a couple others. We got about 9 different centers on campus that will submit an order. We have an order form that we created. They submit the order, what type of snacks and water that they want, and then they just put a sign-in sheet right there too, so we can help track those numbers. And then, of course, we have CalFresh Application Assistance. So we're working on our own student ambassador program, modeling from the California Community Foundation ambassador program, where we're having students table at our different free food events and helping to increase that awareness, and applications actually submitted for CalFresh. We also have DPSS, and LA Food Bank provides CalFresh specialists, in addition to our student assistants that actually help our students apply for benefits. Every week, we do partner with Every Table. Every Table provides up to 100 students free meal deliveries for our equity program. So EOPS, foster youth care, our Justice Scholars Program, which serves systems impacted and formerly incarcerated students, our Dreamer students, and our basic needs students who are in our housing programs. They're all able to submit an order, and they select 5 free meals that gets delivered to their home. And then for our students that don't have an address, we provide them our on-campus basic needs center address, and they're able to put in that address. Their Every Table meals get delivered to us, and then they come and pick it up. We also have Lola's every Wednesday. They give us free 50 hot lunches, which is really great. Our students are expecting it every Wednesday, and that's like good protein, nutritious meals. So they've given us like chile relleno meals, different burritos, chicken fajitas, yeah, really good stuff for our students. So it's only 50, and they go really fast. And again, those students are starting to expect it. They come every single Wednesday looking for those meals. And then monthly, we do also have every first week of the month, we have better breakfast events. So this is where we provide corner bakery boxes that have a breakfast wrap and a side, and we give out 300 at our bigger campus, 200 at our smaller campus. LA Food Bank, they bring the mobile food pantry to our campus every fourth week of the month, and they bring a huge truck, a whole bunch of pallets of food, and this is actually open to the community. So this is for students and community, and they're getting about 30 pounds of free groceries every month, both canned goods, perishable, non-perishable, and then they either have like chicken fillets or fish fillets as well. And then one of my favorite events is the village markets. And I actually have a whole slide I want to talk a little bit more about this because I feel it's very in line with kind of what I shared about destigmatization and being more proactive. It's a more proactive approach to basic needs. If we can get to the next slide. So the village markets is like it's like a farmer's market, but also like a pop-up event, right? And we started these, like pop-ups are pretty culturally relevant. I think they're kind of the popping right now, pun intended. And so this is our opportunity where we provide different produce that's usually in our Viking vaults. So in our Viking vaults, we have, apples, bananas, oranges, onions, potatoes all the time. But then for our village markets, we'll mix it up, get like some cucumbers, tomatoes, ginger, and different variations of greens, so our students can get an extra bag of different produce that's not always available in the vault. And then we also roll out our clothes. So this way, again, students don't have to feel like they have to walk into the Viking closet and kind of be like seen. Some students are comfortable, some students are not comfortable into walking into these spaces still. So we roll the clothes outside, and it's right along with the fresh produce and community resources and student clubs, different activities. So, for example, last month it was around Halloween, and we actually had like pumpkin painting activities, and we were unsure, like, oh, are the students gonna like it? But it was a hit. Students really had a good time taking a stop and painting and decorating different pumpkins for their homes. We also bring different community partners. So this is where DPSS also comes. They send about 2 or 3 different county workers, and they sign up students right on the spot for Medi-Cal and CalFresh and GR if needed and qualified. And so they let us know in advance when are they going to be here or how many people they're going to come, and we send out an appointment link for all of the students who sign up saying they're interested in CalFresh, so the students can actually make an appointment with them, and then they also are available to take walk-ins for students that don't show or time slots that aren't booked. Tangelo is a program that actually also provides meal deliveries to students that are receiving Medi-Cal. We have WIC out there sometimes. They can, but we don't have a high number of students that really need WIC, and so they're kind of sparingly coming. Loads of Kindness is a partner that they provide free laundry events for our students on a monthly basis. We have Verizon and T-Mobile who would come, and during the Affordable Connectivity Program, they were signing up students for the free Wi-Fi. Now that that's gone, they're still signing up students for their affordable or low income home Wi-Fi programs. Human IT is a new program we just got connected with, and they also provide cheap hotspot option. So we're looking forward to bringing them over here too. And then student clubs. So we had like our nutrition and dietetics clubs actually be out there and table, and we're trying to get our fashion club to be out there like with our clothes so they can kind of help, like fashion up and kind of style our students with the clothes we have available too. All right, next slide. So getting into the housing resources, our goal is that no matter what a student comes to us with, what their experience is that we're gonna have something to provide them, right? We don't want to say no. And so we do have various partners with different eligibility criteria or identity-based criteria, and then those that will accept everybody. So the different services that we do connect our students with is college-focused bridge housing, where Hovenists will do their intakes and then actually provide, put them into apartments that they have master leases on. Shower of Hope and April Parker also provide bridge housing, but they're both TAY programs. And so they actually have houses. They have one house for men, one house for women, and they're able to place our students that are experiencing housing insecurity. Hoveness also provides housing navigation. So from the bridge housing, they work with them on a stability plan, get them to establish income, and then actually broker that relationship between the students and the property managers to help them still be approved for their own apartment. Even if they have a bad credit score, even if they have past evictions, as a third party broker, the Hoveness program is able to leverage their relationships with property managers to help get those students housed. We have an on-campus safe parking program for students sleeping in their vehicle. It's safe, it's secure. This program actually came out of the initiative of our president and board of trustees because they were learning that we have students sleeping in their vehicle. At least 70 on our emergency aid application during COVID, every single semester, were saying they were sleeping in their vehicle. When our case managers were trying to get them connected to the local safe parking program, students were saying like, no, that's kind of sketch. I don't want to go to those programs. I don't feel safe in those programs. So they were choosing to still stay in the community, random neighborhoods, risk the police, have no access to restrooms, Wi-Fi, showers, anything. So we were able to get that program coming on campus. And then now they have the Wi-Fi. It's in a familiar environment. It's a student-centered program, so it's only students that are there. And it's been successful because it's just a short term. It's not a housing solution. So every student in the safe parking program also gets referred to one of our housing partners. We do provide hotel assistance as well for students in emergency situations. We provide move-in, rental, utility assistance, and of course, holistic case management. For the rental utility assistance, I really want to highlight the importance of establishing that close relationship with your financial aid offices, right? Our process is after our case managers do an intake and receive, supporting documents on any type of amount they need, how much they are past due, then I'm able to send over the student's name, ID, and the amount directly to our financial aid director. And they know if it's coming from basic needs and this is going to be an emergency, this is a priority. And they very quickly add that amount to our students' financial aid award summary. Now we have to acknowledge the delay, right? If it goes through Bank Mobile, it does take 10 to 14 days to process. And so what we have done in those cases when a student has a pay or quit notice is we on our LBCC letterhead will write, I'm working with this student Danielle Munoz, and she's approved for $3,000 for her past due rental assistance, and it's taking this long to get there, but the funding is on the way. So that has helped, for many property managers and students that are, facing that eviction, but not quite there. Um, Also, and there's cases where it's just been they're not able to wait those 10 to 14 days. Working with our LBCC Foundation, they're actually able to cut checks, and so they have created a student emergency and basic needs fund where people are able to donate to this fund, and we're able to tap into those resources to provide students a check in a much more timely fashion if it's just a situation that they can't wait those 2 weeks. Want to highlight also another program, Raise the Bar. They actually work with our student parents and have provide monthly rental subsidies for single parenting students. Again, Shower of Hope and April Parker, and Volunteers of America, they're all TAY programs focused on 18 to 24, sometimes up to 30. And the Long Beach Multi-Service Center and Harbor Interfaith, they are our local CES providers, right, from the Coordinated Entry System. So those are those programs that if a student is, over the age of 30, they have no income, and there's no other place to go, we're able to provide those referrals to these agencies because they are the catch-all for anybody that's experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity within our local Long Beach area. United Way provides direct aid also, and again, LBCC Foundation helps provide the funding. Okay, I think that's it. Oh no, one more slide, and that's just about the different access points. So very quickly, again, we try to cast a broad net. So in addition to walking in person, we have our email, we have an online holistic basic needs request form where students can request food, housing, transportation, childcare, and mental health resources and technology as well. There's a starfish referral, so they through their Viking portal, a couple of clicks, and they can raise their hand saying, "I need help with housing, I need help with food, or I need help with homelessness resources." We do have a Canvas page also, so we can send updates to every student that joins the page. And then, of course, we got social media. So I hope all 245 of you join and follow our Instagram. We'd love to get y'all connected, and so y'all can stay up to date with our LBCC basic needs. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. I feel like we can just end today. That's it. You covered it. And the framework that you shared was just so wonderful and such a primer. So we will get right into basic needs resources because I think Justin covered a lot. And the three of us wanted to share sort of like we all have similar resources, but we're going to focus on certain ones. So you heard a lot from Justin. You'll hear some different ones from myself, and then Audi will cover some different ones as well so that you can start to hear an array. And we also wanted to provide you examples of how basic needs work is done at each system. So you just heard from community college, then you're going to hear from the CSU, and then you're going to hear from the UC so that you can kind of get a broad spectrum and share with your students and the ones that are incoming as well, all the different resources. You cannot go wrong attending one of our public education system schools in California. Okay, so next slide. So here at Basic Needs at Cal State Long Beach, they've been around since 2015. And I think, yeah, this spring is going to be our 10-year anniversary. So we're gearing up for a celebration of Long Beach being committed to be right along the students while they're trying to navigate basic needs. So what I'll do is cover some resources that we have for everyone on our campus, and then the approach that we take when some of those resources are not enough and some of our students really need more. If you all, those of you in the K through 12 system, you know that the model for a lot of our resources is what is the most like accessible, least restrictive resources we can provide everyone, and then how do we dial down to the more specific high need cases so that we can really get support out to everyone and meet them where they're at. Some folks, some families, some students need just a bit of support, and others need really more like wraparound services. So we do create almost like this continuum. So I'm going to go through the continuum. Beach Bites. Beach Bites it's for everyone. And this is a resource we start with when we present in classrooms or with faculty and staff. We really want to show that students can access basic needs at different levels. So even if you're just a commuter student who's on campus all day, maybe your housing is stable, but it is really hard for students to really meal prep. I mean, it's hard for me to meal prep. So like it's just a challenge when you're really commuting and you have to go and create your grocery list, right? Actually buy the food and prepare it, organize your meals and menus for the week. So we really are really sensitive to the fact that a lot of our commuter students, that's just not going to be realistic. So Beach Bites is one of my favorite programs. It's a campus-wide food notification system. If anyone who's ever worked at Cal State Long Beach or have been here, we have a lot of great programming and resources, and a lot of them have catering. There's so much food on this campus. So we partner with our sustainability folks as well, and this program kind of hits a few different initiatives for us. But essentially, when there's a leftover food at an event, we will push it out to all of the students. So if they sign up for our Beach Bites channel, which is in their CSULB mobile app, then they will get notices all throughout the day. In fact, we had 3 different events going on today. All of them have catering. So there's going to be a lot of notices going out and students will be able to get food. So you might be walking around campus, you get this push notification on your phone. It has a picture of the food and where to get it, and students come and get it. So again, it really reduces food waste, it recycles, and also it feeds our students. Really popular with our commuter students who are here all day long. And then we have our CalFresh outreach. So Beach Bites is for everyone. Doesn't really matter. There's no screening. It's just offered. It's a universal approach. CalFresh Outreach is a federal program. So again, open to many students, but is a federal program. And we'll talk later about those who may not qualify. There are some income limits and there's a work hours requirement. However, CalFresh is a really great resource. When students are approved, they can get up to $291 a month, and it comes on a debit card, and then they can go buy groceries. So you do have to be working at least 20 hours a week, and you have to meet income requirements. I think for a family of one, like a household of one is like 2,600, and then the income goes up from there. But essentially, you have to be low income. We help our students pre-screen. We check their hours of work, we check their income, and then we help them do the application. And so we will pre-screen about 14,000 students throughout the year. Now, it does go to the county. So once it's with the county, we do not know if they were approved, but we do outreach to the students who applied. And about 2,000 students will return our emails and texts, which is really impressive for our students to actually email back to us. And they'll let us know if they were approved. So far, we know right now, like last year, we had 2,000 students say, yes, I was approved and I'm getting meal assistance or grocery assistance. And then there are programs called they're LPIs, local programs that increase employability. So AB 396 does require college campuses to identify what those programs are, submit them to the state. So we have 150 academic programs that my team has gone and researched on campus, submitted to the state and gotten approved. So there are 150 academic programs that if a student is using or enrolled in one of those programs in their majors and their research programs, then they actually get their work hours waived. And so we have everyone from social work, nursing, journalism, the Andala Research Foundation. So we just really do that deep dive across the campus and find out what academic programs have required elements. And then we submit those programs and majors to the state. So we've got a lot of students that are able to actually waive their work hours requirement. And the food pantry. So that's the next one. Again, we're going from most accessible, sort of dialing down into some higher need. This is for students who truly do struggle to get groceries. It's a walk-in basis. They can walk in up to 3 times a week, and they scan their student ID and they can pick up items. There's a point system. And so each time you visit, they'll like track your points. The nice thing about the pantry is that we use Pantry Soft. So when the student comes in, we essentially have like a information management system that tracks students so we can do targeted outreach. And something that we do every semester is we do a cultural food survey. So our team creates a survey, asks the students, what ingredients do you actually cook with? Because it's not enough just to have a pantry. The food has to be culturally relevant. And you have to like see yourself in the food. And so the students will tell us what foods that they're eating, what ingredients they cook with. We take that list and we upload it to our Amazon wish list so that when people want to donate, they're seeing actual food that our students ask for. And again, my North Star is not just food, culturally relevant food, food that you really see yourself in and that you would eat. So students can do that and they go to the pantry. We have a lot of community partners that will donate food. And so they'll usually reach out to us and say, hey, you know, we go around and collect leftover food from farmers markets. Would you like us to drop off some? And so we have created great partnerships with folks that will drop off food every week for us. And then, so now we're going even even more narrow. There are groups of students who this is still not enough, or they're in really high crisis situations where they're not eating, or for our homeless students, when they're experiencing homelessness, they may not have a place to cook and prepare food. So meal swipes are better for them. So we do have a meal swipe program. What we do is we embed in the housing application. We have about 3,600 open beds. We embed a question in the housing application when a student is applying for housing. Would you like to donate one of your meals from your meal plan? So we get about 700 meals a year from that. Plus, we do additional tabling in the spring for feed a need meal swipe donations. And then basic needs ourselves, we purchase like about 5,000 meals. So we can give out to 10 meal swipes per student. And then they can come back with no questions asked. We'll reload their ID card with 10 more, and they can use them at the dining halls in the dorms area. So that's like all you care to eat. And that's been really helpful. Every student that goes into emergency housing automatically gets the equivalent of 2 meals a day for the time that they're in emergency housing. And then, of course, any student that comes our way and during the intake, it just comes out that they need food, we'll load 10 meal swipes. So we give out about 5,000 to 6,000 meal swipes a year. And then the one program I want to highlight today that really supports student affordability for our most high need students is our supplemental grocery assistance program. We have undocumented students, international students, but also students who just, for whatever reason, they were disqualified from CalFresh, maybe wrongly. That sometimes happens, and somebody's working with them to appeal their case. We can provide grocery assistance for 4 months at a time. So especially for undocumented students, we actually do the full CalFresh screening. We look for the work hours requirement, the income, or if they're in the LPI, those programs that waive the work hours. And if they meet all of that, they also do the food insecurity screening, the 2-question screening. And they test positively on that, then we will give them $200 a month for 4 months. And then many of our students will renew because they'll continue to need that support. We use fundraised dollars for this. So we do a lot of fundraising, and we try to endow a lot of our programs. That way, every year we have a little bit of like a deposit of money that goes in. So we are so far up to 75 students on our grocery assistance program, and I launched that in 2022. And we can keep going. So we're going to take the same approach with housing. Again, affordability, everybody's sort of at a different level and a different level of need. So we start with the least restrictive, most broad, accessible programs, and that's our off-campus housing marketplace. So we do have an off-campus housing coordinator, and our housing department actually oversees our College Pads website and procures like affordable rent and affordable units from landlords in our area. And then through the College Pads website, they will list them. This is open to all staff and faculty and students. I actually myself moved down from Sacramento here 2 years ago, and I used that website myself. I knew that when I got the job offer and I looked into that, and I said, oh, this is really great for even staff. So I love this website. I myself used it. And essentially, these are landlords that have agreed to work with our school and provide these. Now, they're not completely like affordable, but they have agreed to work with our students, and some of them will charge slightly under the market rate. And then housing will house these socials in the spring. So College Pads and housing together will bring landlords over, or property management companies, and they'll have roommate mixers so students can meet each other and start to look for rooms off campus. Now, this primarily started because they wanted to help students that lived on campus to prepare for their off-campus living, but it also is open to our basic needs students. So the next thing is the roommate board. Again, widely used, not for faculty and staff, but now this one's for students. And it's also located in the mobile app. So it's right under Beach Bites. There's also a roommate board. And students can post looking for other roommates. My case managers love this because they'll meet two students that both need housing. And then they tell them like, go and post it on there, and then you can meet like the other student without having to disclose that they saw this other student who needs help. So it's really nice. Oh, we can go back one slide. Thank you. Now this next program, so roommate board is really great. Students are on there. We make sure that the post comes down every 26 days so that students aren't confused with old postings. This program I started in 2022, and I also launched this at Sacramento State, but I noticed that students had some financial aid and some ability to pay for rent. They didn't want like one full rent a month of paid and then never come back to basic needs. They needed like more longer term services. So and then I also noticed through data, we had a lot of students dropping out of classes just to go work to make ends meet. And then I found this with the SAP students. Students were failing SAP, satisfactory academic progress. We would ask them, what led to failing SAP? Well, I just had to like go work more. So I was like, you probably earned about 500 bucks with that extra job. Let me just give you $500. Stay in class, right? That's our North Star, stay in class. So we created a subsidy program. Instead of giving them their $1,500 one time, and if the student felt like they can't come back after that, we would say, let's give you $500 over the next 3 months. And then we created a budget with them, like a working budget, what's coming in, what's going out. And then the student got more empowered to, like, they understood actually what was available to them and where they did fall short. And then we would give them their $500. So they walked away with a rent subsidy for the next couple months and a budget and an understanding of their funds. Because that also is a big deal, which I'll talk about in a little bit about strategy. And the last thing I'll add for the housing is we still have students that need to be connected with homeless resources. Maybe they're really struggling to just live on their own. A lot of our students are affected by mental health dynamics and things like that. So we actually house a resource fair in the spring, and we pair it with the city's point in time count. So the city comes out and does their point in time count, which is a count of all the folks experiencing homelessness. And we bring all of the housing resources, many that you saw in the last slide where Justin went over, and we bring them to campus. Students get to meet with them, and we really push heavily. This is a housing resource fair. If you still have not found housing, come to this fair and meet the organizations that offer housing. And some of the organizations have said that they've admitted the student into their program on the spot, which is awesome. And then double that, the county is doing their point in time count, and they're surveying the students and giving them gift cards for it. So the city's able to do their point in time count, the PIT count, and we're able to get students connected to those housing resource fairs. And then fun fact, I assign this to my MSW interns because they're going to be working in the field soon. So it kind of doubles. We like to prepare our students for career with like, hey, if you can help us with this and engage with these like agencies, and some of them love you, they might hire you. So fun fact, we try to also hook up our MSW students, and they help us run this fair. Okay, next slide. Okay, so basic needs, we do try to have a variety of services. Affordability kind of shows up in many different ways. Some of our students, I'm going to go from the left screen in that yellow, they may have been fully packaged. They just don't have a strategy for how to use the money. And then they run into affordability issues because they just didn't track where the money goes, and all of a sudden it's gone. Some of them, it's about having dependents, and students with dependents still have the same cost of attendance as our other students. And so we really try to connect them with CalWorks because they can actually get their fees reimbursed with the ancillary form. An average of $900 goes back to our students. And then lastly, the meal kits. Sometimes the students will go to the pantry and they have some different like ingredients, but how does it all come together? It sort of feels like that show, like like a chef's challenge show, right? Where you just have this basket of ingredients and then you just have to make something with this. Sometimes it feels random. So our CalFresh Healthy Living team, which is a team of nutrition and dietetic students, will look at the ingredients ahead of time, and then they will order the complementary ingredients and actually show students how to make a meal with it. And then they'll have a sample of the meal the meal card and then the kit, they actually put all of the ingredients in a bag. So the student walks away with the bag and actually knows what to do with the ingredients. So our CalFresh Healthy Living team is very active with us. They're really helping the students learn how to cook. They have like cooking with knives. They had a class about cooking with a microwave. And a student of ours who was temporarily in a hotel was like, I happened to go to that. And that really actually helped me because I was able to cook in my hotel room. So it was really interesting. But I want to go back to financial wellness. Um, we have seen that when we look at a student's cost of attendance, and then we look at their SAI, the Student Aid Index, and it tells us how much aid they can get, we are finding that a high number of our students are not actually getting packaged all the way up to cost of attendance. Sometimes they actually have an unmet need of $10,000 to $15,000. That means we, even after giving them all the grants and loans, we did not give them the entire amount they need for their cost of attendance. We're leaving them on the hook, right, for the rest. And that's how we started to find some of these larger systemic issues affecting our students. And so we are working with financial aid to figure out how we can better package our students. But for those of you who work in financial aid, that really is, that's affecting a lot of our students, that we're not really seeing basic needs crises so much as we're seeing the systemic issue of your SAI was negative 1,500. You're a Pell Grant student. It costs you 30,000 to be here. And for whatever reason, we only gave you 16,000. So yeah, you are going to be short every month. And that's where the rent subsidy program comes in. We help students identify scholarships, employment. So like, how can you fill that unmet need with our services and the services of the campus? So we're really trying to do some macro level advocacy and then of course micro level work with the students in budgeting. And you'll see there in the screen, basic needs peer ambassadors. So we hire students who themselves have been homeless or food insecure. They're on the other side and they're the ones who help our students navigate that because they've been there before. And they run our outreach team. So our entire outreach, the look, feel, and everything is at the direction of our students. I just make sure it's appropriate and I make sure that they have the resources they need, but I never touch the outreach stuff. This is actually all my students that do that work. We have 6 professional staff and 14 students, and we follow their lead. And we created a financial literacy game, like a bean game, and students have to they get 19 beans and they have to spread them across like all these different categories. And again, that was created fully by my students. So it's really student led as well in our office. And I think that's the last slide, so we'll keep going. So yes, so there's a lot of things that you can do at your campus, macro level, like advocating for better packaging, all the way down to like getting meal swipes, having a pantry, and then of course building out your CalWorks, CalFresh programs, WIC, any of those public services, making sure students know how to apply for those can really go a long way. And then I'm going to send it over to our next presenter, Audi from UC Davis.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. So yeah, just a little bit about UC Davis. I think my slides aren't really going to cover a whole bunch of other things that were already discussed. But I am the basic needs senior case manager. My title changed to social work now, case manager, but still doing the same type of work. So the next slide, please. I don't know. Oh, so yeah, so it's rapid rehousing. So this program was actually, before it was contracted with an outside agency, we brought it in last year. And so we actually have 21 beds in this rapid rehousing program through our Orchard Park, which is student housing. And so we definitely do like an assessment. So students will complete a basic needs assistance request form, and then it gets assessed if it's for housing, whether it's short-term or long-term. If it's long-term, then our case manager will meet with them and then assess them. If they do qualify, we'll bring them into our program. And so our program is 6 to 9 months for long-term, even up to a year. So for some of our students who are almost graduating, this is perfect for them. We are able to extend it up to a year. They pay anywhere from $300 to $500. And so it depends on if they're in a 1-bedroom with 1 bed or one of our other rooms that has 2 beds. So it's cheaper if they have to share a room. And so, and it's really awesome because it's like fully furnished. They have a washer and dryer, which not all units have them. And so this is really a great way to help our students who are experiencing housing insecurity. And so we are seeing a lot of students, especially with more high-risk needs. So our case management, we do a lot of extensive case management for these cases. And so we are meeting with them weekly and providing other support services. So this is our rapid rehousing. Next slide, please. And this is our short-term emergency, and that's what I am in charge of. So I am in charge of our emergency housing, which is our interim short-term emergency housing, which is anywhere from 1 night up to 30 nights, free of charge. So they don't pay anything for this. And even if they already are housed on campus, but let's say that there is some type of emergency, sometimes there's, students are not getting along, there's some type of safety concern, and while it's trying to, what we're trying to figure out, I will go and pick up the student and take them to our emergency housing unit, and so that's kind of not what the program was really intended for, but I tend to do that in terms of our comprehensive case management support services. And some of our students do not have transportation, and so sometimes with these assessments that I do the more comprehensive assessments. Even though they say, yes, I have transportation, I always ask further questions, because some of the students, don't want to tell me because they're embarrassed. So they don't tell me that, oh, I actually don't have a car or a reliable car, or there's other barriers. And so sometimes their transportation is actually getting an Uber ride. And so some of the students who have many items that they're, like their personal belongings, they have to pay multiple rides for like Uber. So that's one of the things we do. We have a van. I'll pick up the students and then take them to pick them up from the location and take them to the unit. If we are, for sometimes when it's like more of an emergency and we can't house them in our units, because we only have 2 emergency units, which is a total of only 6 beds. Once those are full, well, then we do have hotels. And so sometimes I'm having to take students to our hotels. And so I have to do that. So transportation is part of like my job for emergency services, but it is great because they don't get, they don't have to pay. And then during that time, we do help develop a long-term housing plan if they don't have one. And if they're going to go back to the unit, we definitely work with student housing case managers to help develop, more stability if there are issues with our students. And so that's more of just our programs in general with this. And one of the things that I've noticed, because we brought it in-house, has been the challenge with housing just in Davis is ridiculous. A lot of our students, obviously, like many, not just like UC Davis, but the students are having to pay the same amount that they would for, housing in San Francisco, and we're not living in San Francisco, we're in Davis. So those are the challenges with our students who end up, having a lease and then trying to get out of leases. So just this past academic year, I had over 20 students who had issues with mold, asbestos, a lot of upper respiratory issues. And so those have been challenges that we faced. And so I've placed them in our emergency units, and some of them were actually over 30 days just because of the needs that they had. We don't kick students out once it reaches 30 days or 30 nights, we don't do that. And so sometimes we've had to place our students up to 45 days. And so that also can become a challenge after the 30 days, because we can only really technically give them up for 30 days. And then financial aid, there's like a whole financial aid too, if we're giving them housing for more than the 30 days. So that's kind of a little bit of that. And it works really well for our students. It is close to campus. And so, and we also now have tandem parking, which we didn't have. That was a huge barrier for our students, was parking. They had to buy a parking pass, and it was further away from Orchard Park. And so we just received that about a couple weeks ago. So they're able to park there at the Orchard Park parking structure, which is really great. And they don't have to pay anything. So, and these units we have, we pay yearly for these units. So it's not, this for the amount that they're paying for the rapid rehousing, anywhere from 300 to 500, which is great. For those students who don't have jobs, they're unemployed, we do lower the cost. So it's not that it's like a strict 300 or up to 500. Sometimes we'll go below the 300. So that has we've had several cases with that as well. The next slide. So this is our Aggie Eats. And so this is kind of what Danielle spoke about in terms of for CalFresh was when students don't qualify for CalFresh. We now have an Aggie Eats program. And so just this past year, we ended up offering 120 students what's the equivalent to CalFresh. And so we were able to give them up to like the 291. It was put on like a ATM card, and we went through one of the banks, and so they get, it looks just like a regular credit card or ATM card, and it has their name and all that. And so this year, I know that we're trying to serve 200 students with the budget of about 450,000 for that. And so that's that froze for the Aggie Fresh. For the Aggie Eats, that's the food truck, which I think we did get popular with the Aggie Eats on there. So that's the food truck is, and I think on the next slide, if you go into the next slide, I think it has a picture of the famous food truck, and that is huge. It started last year, and we have a chef, and they prepare meals. We used to have like a QR code, so basically it's basically students would just go and swipe the QR code. They could pay anywhere from like $1 up to however much they wanted to. No one would know how much you pay. This past year, so it was the first year that started, because it started last like in the spring. We have given over 90,000 meals, and most of them students don't pay. And so that has been awesome, and in terms of trying to meet the needs for food insecurity. And so we do have student staff that help us in some of these, again, like just trying to train students, some students that, they can also get jobs because they are working in like the food industry. So we're doing a lot of mentorship as well. And so this is huge, especially because when I went first initiated, it was a donor that gave over, I think it was, I don't know if it was over 150,000 just for the truck alone. And so again, there's a lot of time and energy that goes into like the meal preps, and it's Monday through Friday. They go all over UC Davis, and they're on Instagram, so they'll post like what the meal is for the day. The students can get up several meals, so it's not just one meal. And so some students will save it for dinner, or they'll take them home. So it's really great opportunity for that. And I know that I'm not sure if the next slide, I was trying to kind of just based off time, so I was trying to kind of go through these if anyone towards the end has questions. Also, within that, we have, just to add to it, we do have the emergency basic needs grants. We gave over $250,000 last year. Just this past month alone, we already gave over 50,000. So the need is growing. Within that goes into our housing as well as food. So students who don't have enough money, even with CalFresh, right? It goes beyond, the money that they receive from CalFresh. If they don't have enough money, they'll apply for our emergency basic needs grant, which is for housing. So as long as they say like, okay, I spent this much money on food, and here's my rent, my agreement, that they could just upload. We see how much they're paying for rent, then we're able to give them money. Some students will ask for like anywhere for, it could be really like, usually it's over probably like 1,000, sometimes a little bit less, but we can give up to $3,000 per academic year. And so that kind of is something that I think we are seeing the increase, but we are able to help them because again, it also helps with food and housing as well. And so that's really it. I mean, I think a lot of it, I was just trying to really focus on our food truck in terms of just helping with the affordability for our students. And that has been a great success, as well as some of the resources that we're able to provide, especially at the Basic Needs Center on campus. It has grown since we started in 2018. And so now our team is larger, and we are providing mental health support with especially some of our students that are experiencing a lot of mental health crisis. That's something that's new to our Basic Needs Center. We are located in the Memorial Union, so it's high traffic area. And so sometimes I'm collaborating with the Memorial Union staff when there are students in crisis. And that is something new to Basic Needs Centers. Not all Basic Needs Centers have someone that is that is there in the center providing mental health support in crisis. So we do get also a lot of, sometimes the UC Davis Police Department will bring students in when they don't feel comfortable, when the students don't feel comfortable talking to them. I'm able to provide that support to our students. So that has been a great success as well. But yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. Justin and Audi, you're fantastic. I really appreciate the time that you spent talking about your programs. They're great work. And we're going to go now into Q&A. And then if there is time after, because I know we have about 10 minutes, this is the mural board that you're welcome to also just share what you're doing on your campuses, and then other folks can also see. So we are a community of knowledge sharers. So we're going to go into our what we call Q&D. I like to call it question and discussion. I try to decolonize my language where I can. And question and answer is typically like very transactional, assumes that there's an expert and then not. And so I like question and discussion because you are all experts at this. We are all experts, and together we share wisdom and knowledge. So we're going to go into question and discussion because this whole room has wisdom. So the first question is, what exactly are the eligibility requirements for CalFresh? And I might ask if Justin or Audi might want to touch on this one more time. Or share any links in the chat that might help folks with that.
It's mainly I'm not an expert by any means, but it's mainly based off of a student's income, and there's a certain income requirements for every household. And so, for example, if a student is still living with the family member and that other family member is getting CalFresh, then they're going to be considered in the same household as well as the income. And then there's that 20-hour work requirement for college students. Okay, that's the crazy part. I don't think that there's not a work requirement if you're not a student, but if you're a college student, then you have to have that 20-hour work requirement. But in recent legislation, they've been trying to increase eligibility, and they have created or increased the LPIs, right? The local, I just put it in the chat. What was it?
Yeah,
Local
program
programs
to
that
increase
increase employability. And so if
Yeah.
a student is in a welding program or a CTE program, then that waives that 20-hour, okay? Because they're basically saying your hours in the class is going to increase that employability, so you're more likely to get that career based off of this major. And every campus has a basic needs liaison that uploaded all of the programs that meet that CTE, or sorry, the LPI requirement. Because it's not only CTE programs, but if your campus's EOPS program requires 3 contacts, and then the second contact, it's focused on career counseling and it's required of all students, then that also meets LPI requirements, and that also waives those 20-hour work requirements. So I know those are some of the biggest factors regarding CalFresh. Danielle mentioned it also. You do have to, have a social. You can't be undocumented and receive CalFresh. I don't know if there's other points, Audi or Danielle, you want to add regarding that.
So that's it. Yeah, work and income requirements, and there's ways to waive the work requirements. Great. The next one is, how do you build the partnerships? And I think that one was during your session, Justin.
Yeah, and there's so many partnerships. Like there's even I kept thinking others I didn't list. Like we also partner with Baby to Baby. They provide us free diapers and resources. United Way, that we also have $50 food vouchers that's available. Local neighborhood associations like Long Beach Rotary Club, Los Alamitos Bay Garden Club in Long Beach. They also like have their own efforts and donate to us that we work with. But to answer the question, I think it's just being open. You have to be open and kind of be an advocate for your students and your campus. I think I'm blessed to be in Long Beach with such a strong community that there is a lot of agencies. So there's sometimes that I will get contacted by various nonprofits or local groups to help. And then in terms of housing, basically anything that says housing or housing placement, I'm like, oh yeah, like let me get your name, let me get your contact, like let's talk, let's meet. How do I create a direct referral process for my students to get access to your resources? So that it's really networking, being open and kind of hustling, right, to bring as many resources available to your students.
Thank you. Awesome. And a lot of people do reach out to us, I think, right? Just as much as we might seek out some things, I think our community partners are pretty good about that. So the next question is, does the supplemental grocery assistance program impact financial aid? So it does, and it kind of doesn't. So again, our students that are not are undocumented and are not eligible for federal aid typically only get like the DREAM Act. So if their cost of attendance is like 30,000 and the DREAM Act barely covers tuition, then they probably have a good $27,000 room in aid. So $200 a month for 4 months will go against their aid, but there's plenty of room. It doesn't affect them negatively. It's just another way to fill the gap. So think about unmet need as filling the gap. And that's okay to fill the gap. And if they go to the cost of attendance and they need more, there's a cost of attendance appeal. So we do lean into the rules, and they usually don't prohibit students. It's just something to keep in mind, and there's always an appeal process. The next question is, how many students are you serving with Aggie Fresh? That's for Audi.
For Aggie Fresh, because those are the students, obviously, that like Danielle was talking about when they don't qualify for CalFresh. This past year it was 120. Our goal this year is 200. And so that's great for students, that are undocumented that don't qualify. That's been a great asset. And we actually hired an Aggie Fresh coordinator who specifically helps students. And so they're in the center. We have a CalFresh and an Aggie Fresh coordinator. And so that program started just this past year. So that's the goal right now, is to serve 200 students.
Awesome, thank you. And then the Aggie Fresh program for undocumented students, loving it. Do you fundraise private dollars, the funding coming from a grant?
Yeah, it's from a grant. And so we also have like we have donors as well. And so we also have like our state funds. So we try to get, especially with that, is just private donor funds and then grants. Again, the last year, I don't know what the budget was, but it was for 120. This budget is now 450,000 to serve over 200 students. And this is every month that they get up to the $290+ for food.
Great, thank you. And Justin put in the chat, the Viking Vault serves 2,300 students every week. Thank you, Justin. The next question, do students get taxed when they receive money from the emergency fund? And not here at the CSU, we don't tax them. International students, if their country has a tax treaty with us, they typically don't. If they don't have a tax treaty with us, they do. And so what we'll do is account for that. We'll let the student know, and then they have to do like an informed consent. Like I accept this money. I'm aware that I may get taxed. And sometimes we'll just give them a slightly higher amount so that they could kind of use some of that money to pay their tax back. So we do work it out with the student. I've never seen anyone pay more than like $120, I think, on like a $1,000 grant. So, but I know that our international students do get taxed depending on where they're coming from. How about you all?
We don't for our grants, we don't give international students grants. So
Great.
yeah, because it's state funds. So our criteria is different, and we go through financial aid, and if they have room in their budget or if they have to do a cost of attendance appeal, then we work with that. And we do have private donor funds, so that's separate, and we are able to sometimes help international students with that. But we are able to give them our housing support for international students.
Great. Next question, how long typically are hotel stays and how much does it cost? For us, 2 weeks is typical, and it costs about $2,500 for 2 weeks.
Yeah. We spent, so our budget was really expensive before. We spent a lot on hotels, and that was before we had the rapid rehousing and short-term emergency housing. So we're not using hotels as often, but we also offer in the summer emergency gap housing in the summer. And so last year we spent over $35,000 just on summer gap housing.
Awesome. Thank you. And I just want to go over to the Miro board real quick if anyone put anything in. Some folks have said emergency housing for veterans, 2 snacks per day, a hot meal per day, gas cards, Another campus says Financial Literacy 101, Emergency Assistance through Foundation and Basic Needs Center, counseling centers, 10 per session, definitely free counseling, like that definitely will help students afford those services if we can offer it on campus. So yeah, continue to put these in if you want to share any ideas with each other. We hope that this helped you kind of think about ways that we're helping students afford their college, increase their sense of belonging, and really students, we really want students to know that they belong on our campuses, and the best way we can do that is to help them and assure them, yes, you can afford it. Yes, you belong here. That's one of the first things we hear students say when they start to have challenges with affordability is, do I even belong here? We're like, yes, you do. We're going to help you figure this out. Do not worry about that. We're going to put together different resources and we want you here. And we're going to work hard to make sure you stay. So hopefully this helps for you all, and feel free to share information with your students. If any of you are working with incoming college students, like you really can't go wrong whatever system they're going into. And last question, are there any other programs like AgriFresh and other CSU in other UCs?
I don't know, in other UCs.
Yeah. Good question though. All right, y'all. Well, we're gonna this is our time at 3:40. You have closing remarks at 3:45. So please have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend ahead.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Take care.
Join in.
Thank you.